This is Yo Quiero Agua, one of the creepiest execution videos in the world, explained. The video that I'm about to explain is about 30 seconds long, and it's the creepiest and one of the most disturbing videos out there. And whatever you do, don't go searching for it. The video begins with a suspected cartel member with his face completely flayed and skinned, and he is still alive. Now, you don't see this happening, but you do see the aftermath. All of the skin on his face has been completely removed. Nothing that resembles facial features are there anymore. No skin, no lips, no eyelids, absolutely nothing. This video almost doesn't look real, but it has been confirmed to be 100% real. It almost looks like and feels like an 80s slasher film. Throughout the video, it's just his captors mocking him and having a good time enjoying the pain they inflicted on him. They ask him questions throughout the video like, "Do you want water?" which the victim replies, "Yo quiero agua," which means "I want water." The captors continue to just mock and mess with the victim throughout the whole video. It also looks like they skinned some of his chest off too, which I can't even imagine the pain. Now, the video is gory and hard to watch, but that's not really what makes this video disturbing. The video is just honestly extremely creepy. For example, how the guy looks after his face was skinned. The best way I could describe it is that his face was stuck in a constant grin, but he has no face. It's almost like they cut off his face in a way to make him smile permanently. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's an extremely messed up visual. Also, the way the victim sounds while he's talking to his captors is also extremely disturbing. His voice is just so raspy and it almost sounds demonic and not human at all. Now, we all know the video Funky Town, and people who saw Funky Town compare this video to it all the time. Now, it's not Funky Town disturbing, but it is extremely disturbing. All in all, it isn't a pleasant video to look at or watch, and I urge you to never ever go searching for it.
This girl was a human sacrifice. Around 500 years ago, this girl was living in southern Peru, and she was sacrificed to the Inca gods on top of a volcano. At the time of her death, the girl was aged between 13 and 15. Archaeologists discovered her remains back in 1995, which had frozen due to the high altitude. Analysis revealed that the cause of death was a blow to the right side of her skull. Now, alongside her body, archaeologists also found 37 different objects. These funerary offerings included llama bones, small figurines, ceramics, and containers for liquids. And they also found food such as maize that had been preserved due to the climate. Now, in Inca religion, child sacrifice was very important. They didn't believe that these children were dying, instead that they would go on and live with their ancestors and protect the land. Now, I don't know about you, but I find looking at reconstructions like this to be an emotional experience, and it really brings the people of the past back to life.
These are my two favorite saw trap solutions. One of them is easily the cycle trap from Jigsaw. The way the trap works is you have this guy, Mitch, who is suspended in the air. All of the red lines are little blades that are spinning around and around at a rapid rate, and he's being lowered into the blades as the opening gets more and more narrow. The whole thing is being powered by this motorcycle up here. All he has to do is stay very still as the chains lower him through the blades, and he has to pull on the motorcycle brake that is at the bottom of the contraption. The reason why I say I like the solution to this trap is because they tried to cheat. This other person in the room uses a piece of rebar to stop the motorcycle from going, effectively stopping the machine, but he celebrates too early, doesn't get out in time, the steel breaks, and he gets sliced open. Another one of my favorite solutions is easily the water cube trap. This trap is rigged. He's not given a way out. He has this box on his head that is filling up with water at a rapid rate, and he has to figure out how to get out. He can't break the box in time, but what he does do is take a pen out of his pocket and gives himself an emergency tracheotomy so he can breathe through the new hole in his throat. Completely insane, and he survives.
Let's talk about one of the creepiest videos out on the internet right now, the market ghost video. You guys have been tagging me in this video so many times, we just need to talk about it. This video is going viral right now. It's crazy. So you've probably seen this video on your feed a bunch of times already, and that's because people are reposting this video but not really talking about where it comes from. This video comes from Mexico and it comes from user Gerameras Rivera. The original is already at 18.8 million views. And this video is going viral right now because people can't quite seem to find an explanation for it. In the video, you see this man Gerameras working his night shift at his bodega job at 3:20 a.m. But in the video, he explains that he sees something walking behind him. And then he proceeds to catch this on camera.
Son las 3:20 de la mañana, me tocó aquí guardia nocturna. Lo de Gorrera, si se fijan, está todo solo. Acabo de ver a alguien allá en la entrada de clientes. No, ya no se va a ver nada. Y lo vi clarito, clarito. Ya lo vi otra vez. A ver si se alcanza a ver. No, me da miedo ir. Eso que se mira ahí. Eso negro que se ve ahí. Miren, ya se movió. ¡Oh! Está caminando, de hecho hasta que no manches. No manches. Se sigue moviendo. Es una persona, claro, hasta que se... Miren. No. Vámonos.
And someone could easily say it's someone just walking behind him, trying to seem scary, but people can't seem to explain how the figure just disappears. Like if you go back to the video, like it just walks
Se sigue moviendo.
and then disappears
Es
completely.
una persona, claro, hasta que se... Miren. No.
So what do you guys think? Is it a hoax? Is it a trick of the angle? Is it a ghost? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know.
There was this documentary that came out and it was all about unrelated identical twins. They like brought in 10 or so people that literally looked identical twins, but they're not related at all.
Doppelganger.
They do a face scanning and like their faces would like match up like 90%. They also said it's estimated that with every face, there are 7 matches in the world.
Wow.
So there's like 6 of you in the world that look like you.
So we're not even unique.
No. Apparently not.
That's wild.
I guess it kind of makes sense though. Have you seen those like celebrities like Nicolas Cage? How he like there's a guy from like, way back and it looks just like him.
I know.
Yeah.
And how Taylor Swift looks like the satanic leader.
Ooh, spooky.
Like it looks a lot like her.
Guys, that can't be a
song.
coincidence.
All the Swifties out there.
Be
Depends.
able to
Morbid Facts, Part 385. Here's a 1990 photo of murderer Dalton Prejean with his son in prison, shortly before he was executed via electric chair for killing a state trooper. 12 years later, that same son, Dalton Prejean Jr., was convicted of the 2001 death of a 14-month-old baby. He's currently serving a 60-year sentence in the same prison that his father was executed in. Actress Tina Fey received her chin scar at the age of 5 when a stranger randomly entered her front yard while she was playing and slashed her across the face. The man was never identified nor seen again. A python from Australia became addicted to meth after living in a drug lab for several years. Police busted the operation before sending the snake to rehab for 7 months. In Japan, women are traditionally banned from entering a sumo ring under any circumstances. This tradition is so strictly imposed that in 2018, 2 women were forced to leave the ring, even though they were performing CPR on a mayor who had collapsed inside.
This is why surgery during the Napoleonic Wars was so horrifying. When you see the Napoleon movie, you'll know that if you found yourself in combat with Napoleon Bonaparte, it meant there was a high likelihood that you would end up wounded. And battlefield medicine during the Napoleonic Wars was incredibly primitive. If you were wounded, you likely wouldn't even be rescued from the field for days after the battle had ended, if you were lucky enough to survive that long. And in the meantime, you were at the whim of the elements, dehydration, and insects. If you did make it to triage, a fiercely overworked and undertrained surgeon would begin the agonizing process of surgery, which often defaulted to amputation. Surgeries took place out in the open without any knowledge of hygiene or antibiotics, and most importantly, this was before the use of anesthesia. Instead of painkillers, officers were given rum, but normal soldiers were just given a piece of wood to bite down on while their limbs were amputated with unwashed and unsharpened saws. The pain of amputation was excruciating, and the surgeon's speed was the only antidote. While a highly trained surgeon might complete an amputation in under a minute, it was likely that these field surgeons took at least half an hour. And don't even get me started on brain surgery. If you want to see just how brutal all of this really was, make sure you go see the Napoleon movie in cinemas November 22nd.
Imagine trying to Photoshop a picture of yourself, except the changes also appear in real life. Because you keep staring at a picture of yourself, hoping the mole on your chin wasn't there. So you use Photoshop to remove it, only to look in the mirror and see that it's also gone in real life. Knowing this, you start to make a lot more changes to yourself, making your waist smaller and your cheeks more pink. But that's when you realize even when you aren't touching your computer, other changes are still being made, like your eyes and mouth that are slowly being erased. So you slam your computer shut and suddenly your face is normal again. Thinking it might have been your imagination, you open your computer once more, only to see a demonic reflection of yourself. Terrified, you run outside and try to escape in your car, not knowing your computer is still slowly making changes by itself. And this nightmare is only just beginning. This short film is called Transfigure, and I really hope it becomes a full-length movie one day. It was suspenseful despite having no dialogue, and I think the message behind it is very interesting too. But let me know what you thought and follow for more.
Millions of people are calling butterflies dangerous.
Bro, what are you talking about?
So, there's a hidden hotel. It's ran by tall staff that wear suits, but they have eyes that are glossy and wings with distinct spots.
So basically human butterflies.
Yeah, but they're not as friendly as a normal butterfly. Normally, butterflies have a tongue that's like a straw. They use it to drink nectar. When they're not using it, they coil it back up and put it back in their mouth. However, guests have seen the staff at the hotel with tongues that are sharp like a needle. If they bite you, they'll inject a poison that melts all your organs. But what's even worse is what's on the second floor of the hotel.
How could it be worse than melted organs?
Well, there's a room that nobody's allowed inside. They call it the Room of Despair. It's full of furniture that's covered in slime that if you touch, you'll become weak, but even overwhelmed with sadness. Once in there, there's only one way out. You have to complete the Smiler's Gauntlet.
This is the awful and disturbing murder of Shanda Sherry, one of the most unsettling true crime cases ever. In the early morning of January 11th, 1992, 12-year-old Shanda Sherry was abducted from her home in Indiana and tortured to death by 4 teenage girls in extremely inhumane ways. Melinda Loveless, Lori Tackett, Tawny Lawrence, and Hope Rippey. All 4 of these girls had somewhat of an extremely rocky home life growing up, with allegations of molestation and physical abuse from family members. In junior high, Melinda Loveless started dating a girl named Amanda Heavern. However, their relationship was extremely toxic and they broke up. But fast forward to October of 1991, and this is where Amanda meets Shanda and their friendship turns into a romantic relationship. This angers Melinda and she begins discussing ways to murder Shanda. So Melinda put together a plan to have her 3 friends knock on Shanda's door a little after midnight on January 11th while she hid in the back of Lori's car under a blanket with a knife. The girls would then go and tell Shanda, who they never actually met, that they were friends with Amanda and that they wanted to hang out. But when Shanda got into the car, Melinda jumped out of the back seat and held the knife to Shanda's throat. They then drove Shanda deep into the forest to an abandoned house, where they stripped her naked, tied her up, and brutally beat her for 7 hours straight. Melinda tried to cut Shanda's throat, but the knife was too dull, so instead she just strangled her until she was unconscious. All 4 girls then threw Shanda in the trunk, went back to Lori's house to enjoy soda and clean up. At one point, Shanda woke up and began screaming, so Lori repeatedly stabbed her in the chest multiple times. The girls then got back in the car and drove around for a couple more hours. During the ride, Shanda, who was still alive and stuffed in the trunk, started crying, and when Melinda opened the trunk, Shanda sat up covered in blood with her eyes rolled back in the back of her head. Melinda then beat Shanda with a tire iron until she went conscious. She even said that she felt her skull cave in. They then continued driving until they found a burn pile. They then wrapped Shanda in a blanket, sprayed her with Windex, and covered her in gasoline, and set her on fire, but despite all of this, Shanda was still alive. That was until the girls noticed she was still alive and they went back and set her on fire again, killing her. All 4 girls then left to go eat breakfast while Shanda burnt to death. Melinda Loveless joked about Shanda's burnt body by saying she looked like the breakfast sausage she was eating. The next day though, Shanda Sherry's body was discovered by 2 hunters. Tony and Hope then broke down and confessed to the police about the murder. And all 4 girls were charged with the murder of Shanda Sherry. Tony was sentenced to 25 years, Hope was sentenced to 35 years, and Lori and Melinda were sentenced to 60 years in prison. But what makes this disturbing and sickening case even more sickening, all 4 of these girls are out of prison and free, walking the earth, despite having little to no remorse of what they did to Shanda Sherry. The Shanda Sherry case remains one of the most disturbing and haunting true crime cases out there, because these were all young teenage girls who were doing something extremely horrible to another girl. This was one of those cases that were extremely hard to read, and rest in peace to Shanda Sherry.
The newborn, a genetic anomaly resulting from Ripley 8 and a cloned xenomorph queen aboard the USM Auriga, displayed exceptional strength. It eliminated the queen shortly after birth, identifying Ripley 8 as its true mother. Unlike typical xenomorphs, the newborn had a humanoid appearance, lacking a tail, inner jaw, and dorsal tubes. It was twice the size of a standard warrior xenomorph. The newborn was a product of live birth, bypassing the usual ovomorph, face hugger, and chest burster process. It had pale, fleshy skin and teeth resembling humans. The creature stood upright and exhibited emotions, including curiosity, anger, affection, rage, and sorrow. Despite emotional depth, it showed childlike curiosity about its violent acts. Ripley 8 ended its life, ejecting it into space through a hull breach on the vessel.
There was also a theory
Yeah.
Howie Mandel was actually being kidnapped. I don't know if you remember, but everyone on TikTok thought that he was being kidnapped because he was posting like these weird pictures and these weird videos like,
Hello, people of TikTok. I'm okay. I have not been kidnapped.
he would post a picture like randomly under the bed, like going like this.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then
Nobody's a comedian.
No, but at the same time, it's like, is this a coincidence? Because when he started making videos,
Yeah.
people were like, is he trying to tell us something? So, and I'm gonna show you this video.
Yeah.
I want to see if you see the,
Let me see, let me see,
the
let me
hidden
see.
messages.
Hi everybody, Howie Mandel here. Creativity in just under a minute.
See, why would he post this? This is so random.
And you clip the two corners
What's he doing?
Arts and crafts.
and that side,
For no reason.
and you just take the pencil.
Look, he's shaking.
I write shoe.
Okay, ready? Peep the hidden message.
Yeah, well, what's he writing then?
Then I don't know. Can you see it? It says shoe stuff. Shoe stuff.
Shoe stuff. So look, if you see it, SOS. He made the triangle. He was like shoe stuff.
Oh!
He made the thing, and look, the shoe on the S is a 5 and a 5. When you dial 55, you call the police and they ask you, are you being kidnapped right now?
Nah, that's crazy.
Before I start this story, I just want to give a big trigger warning. This does talk about children dying, so if that's something you're sensitive of, please do not listen to this story. Okay, I'm about to begin. A body of a little girl told us who killed her at the morgue. So this story is being told to us by a forensic doctor. So he starts off the story letting us know that he received a phone call asking him to go to the morgue because there were 6 bodies of little girls whose lives were ended at foster care. They told him that it was urgent that he check the girls because the officers wanted to find the person who did this to them. He said that it was around midnight, but he got there as fast as he could, and his helper was there too, and so was the police officer. The police officer actually waited outside so that they can check the little girls. So they were about to start checking the girls, just at first the basic stuff, and they noticed that every single girl was ended the same way, with a pew-pew to the head. At first he noticed that each girl had died a different day because of what they looked like. He said that each body was in a different stage of decomposition. He said that he started with the girl that had signs of being the first one to have ended. He said he started by making an incision on her chest, and out of nowhere, she grabbed his hand and opened her eyes. He said that at first he didn't get scared because it's very common for the human body to move, maybe even sound like they're breathing when they're dying. However, in the stage of decomposition that she was in, it is not common. He even said that her body had already changed colors. He said what he experienced that night was like far beyond the scientific explanation that he can ever give anybody. He said that the girl grabbed his hand, opened her eyes, and gave him the name of her killer. He said that when this happened, even his helper screamed out, "She's alive! She's alive!" And he was like, "No, she's not. She is not alive. I mean, look at her body. It has very different colors and it's in the worst stage of decomposition." He said that her skin was almost green and it was bloated or like swollen. He basically said, if you ask me what happened that night, the only answer I can give you is that God himself gave her that energy to tell us who killed her, because that person must have been the devil. That night, they actually finished all the autopsies, and the next day he went to university and that his helper went to a different hospital. He said that ever since that happened, he never went back to working at a morgue again. He mentions how he's not scared of dead people, but he is scared of things that he has no explanation for. So then he was like, do you want to know what happened to the killer of the girls? He said that he did end up giving that name to the cops, but instead of telling them that the girl verbally gave them the name, he lied to the cops and said that one of the girls had the name written on her hand, because he knew that if he told them what happened, they were gonna think he's crazy and maybe the person was gonna get away from ending those girls. He said the name that he gave to the cops was a confirmed killer who is now spending the rest of his life in jail. Okay, first of all, ill, but secondly, what the fuck was that sound at the end of the video? I'm editing this right now, and I swear I kept hearing things when I was recording the story. I'm gonna show you what I edited out. What the fuck was that? I just want to finish the story. Oh my gosh. He said that when this happened, even
This is one of the worst torture methods in human history. Known as the rat's feast, the victim would be restrained, lying flat and unable to move. A hollow container, often a bucket or a metal cylinder, would be placed against their bare abdomen, its open side trapping a portion of their skin. Within this container, ravenous rats would be enclosed, their only escape blocked by the victim's flesh. As the torturers applied heat to the exterior of the container, the panicked rats would become frantic to escape the intensifying heat. With their sharp teeth and claws, they would gnaw and claw at the only soft barrier they encountered, the skin and muscle of the human underneath. The terror of hearing and feeling the frenzied creatures trying to burrow through one's body, combined with the excruciating pain as they began to bite into flesh, was unimaginable. This method, relying on the natural survival instincts of the rats, turned these small animals into instruments of torture, causing agonizing physical damage and profound psychological trauma. It was a slow and barbaric process, where death, when it came, was a release from the relentless torment.
Breaking news, the attorney who represented Casey Anthony is now representing Shayna Gardner. Shayna Gardner was part of a murder for hire plot against her ex-husband in February of 2022. She was recently in court on Friday and has since pled not guilty to the charges. During her appearance, it was noted that she is being represented by Jose Baez. He also represented Casey Anthony, who was acquitted on July 5th, 2011 for taking the life of her daughter, Kaylee Anthony. Furthermore, he was also part of the Aaron Hernandez case. On June 9, 2016, the former NFL player hired on Baez. And lastly, he was also part of the Megan Thee Stallion case in 2022. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The Matthew Perry. Oh, what's the theory on that? His whole death was actually planned. You go on his Instagram, I don't know if you've seen it, but he starts posting shit like this. Random videos.
He's watching the Batman, huh?
It shows Batman. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. And then he goes to the ceiling, shows the bat symbol. Right?
Okay.
Usually in the cartoons, what does a bat symbol symbolize? Something's
What?
in danger or someone needs help.
Yeah, like the bat signal. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So again, 2 days after, he posts another picture of a bat symbol in the pool. And he says, "Sleep well, everybody. I've got the city tonight. Matman." Right? So it's just random. 2 days after, he posts another picture. Batman plays pickleball. Everyone's like, what the fuck? Is that an indicator? Because the day that he died, earlier on the day, he was playing pickleball. So was that indicator like, once the day I play pickleball, something's gonna happen to me?
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
Next video, a day after, he drops.
Breaking news, it is a race to recover a $20 billion sunken treasure. The San Jose had over 600 crew members on board when it sank some 2,000 feet on June 8, 1708. It is believed to be holding $20 billion worth of treasure, even has its cannon still attached. The president of Colombia ordered his administration to exhume the quote holy grail of shipwrecks. He says he wants this done as soon as possible. Though the president of Colombia will not disclose its exact location, it is believed to have sunken somewhere around here. However, at this time, a mystery surrounds the ownership of the massive trove of gold, silver, and emeralds, estimated to be anywhere between $4 billion and $20 billion. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
If y'all haven't watched the episode, y'all gotta go watch it. Adventures with Idiots.
Oh, yo, what's up, son? No.
This is not for content. This is me. I am scared. Yeah, it was pretty scary. So my cousin hit me up after the thing. She lived close to Clinton Road, and her and her friends used to go there all the time. The last time she ever went, she went there and they got out the car. Two of the guys that they were with threw quarters and pennies over the bridge like we did. Yeah. And they said when they were leaving that night after they threw the quarters, remember what happened to us with the lights and behind the thing? Yeah. They said a truck was following them, but she said that after it got really close, it just disappeared. Like it didn't fade away, it just disappeared. 8 months after, guy in the passenger seat, he died. And then a year after, that same month that they went, the other guy died. I don't know, bro. She told me be careful, and she told me not to go back.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going back.
Breaking news, a missing 15-year-old has been found murdered by the maintenance man. The missing 15-year-old was initially considered a runaway. Because of this, a missing persons alert was not issued. Authorities say the missing 15-year-old was found deceased near her apartment on Wednesday, and they say that she was dumped there by the maintenance man who worked for the building. Though he had active warrants in Alabama and Georgia, he was recently able to get a job at the apartment complex where she lived. Her mother reported her missing 2 days before she was found deceased. The discovery of the deceased 15-year-old was made by a woman walking her dog. Officials say that surveillance footage on October 29th showed the victim getting into the car with the suspect an hour before the same car was seen driving to the wooded area where her body was located. When questioned by authorities, he said he picked up the girl and drove several miles to buy a tablet. He then claimed the person he was going to buy the tablet from was a no-show. He then drove the girl back to her apartment, he claimed. The 34-year-old maintenance man was arrested on Thursday. The suspect is currently facing murder charges and remains in jail without bond. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
R.I.P. Matthew Perry, but there's a lot of theories saying that his whole death was actually planned, right?
Yeah.
So you go on his Instagram, he hasn't posted for like bare months, right? But just recently in the last 2 months, he starts posting shit like this. He drops cranberries on a desk.
What the fuck?
That's it.
Okay,
And-
that's
and he
weird. That's
says-
weird. That's
he
weird
says,
stuff.
This is what I've eat today. I'm Matt Man. So there's a band out there called the Cranberries, right? And the lead singer died by drowning. Matt Perry
shit.
died in the jacuzzi because he drowned.
Nah, that's fucked.
So listen, it keeps going. Another picture 2 days after. A Batman in a pumpkin. Do you know what I mean? He died close to Halloween. Is that an indicator? Was like, oh, I'm gonna die close to Halloween.
shit.
Now look. He posted a picture of the moon now.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I'm Matt Man. Fam, on the day he died, there was a full moon.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And now his last post. This is where he gets fucked. He's in the jacuzzi on his last post.
Yeah.
He says, oh, so warm water swirling around makes you feel good. I'm Matt Man.
He drowned in the jacuzzi,
in that
right?
jacuzzi.
Nah.
Damn, this is where it gets crazy. Matt Perry wrote a book. And it's crazy because the last 2 lines of his book say this. Someday, you too might be called upon you to do something important. So be ready for it. So whenever happens, just think, what would Batman do? And do that.
Whoa.